So, earlier this year, we did a survey, and lots of you took part. We had over 700 responses, and that was a fantastic opportunity for us to hear from you. And you can see from here who the responses were from. And because we weren't having our face-to-face conferences, this was a really good way of taking the pulse, if you like, of how things were with you all. So we talked a bit about the findings at the Glasgow conference, and we've actually shared a summary of them since, but you can see who responded there. And if we look at what stage of their CLL situation people were at, you see that over half the people are on active monitoring, and then others were on treatment or in remission. What I'm wanting to do today is talk to you about 3 areas where we found the results of particular interest, in that it was what some of us were expecting to see, but not all of us. And what we're wanting today is to actually say to you, would you like to talk about these areas so you can add some sort of words, if you like, and stories around the figures that we've got, so that it'll help us understand even better the information that we've already come up with. And so we're wanting to talk today about 3 areas. We're wanting to talk about vaccinations, we're wanting to talk about fatigue, and we're wanting to talk about quality of life. And we thought that vaccinations and fatigue, so the 3 topics: vaccinations, fatigue, and quality of life. And we're going to talk about vaccinations and fatigue this morning, and we're going to talk about quality of life this afternoon. And very much an opportunity for you all to talk about things that will be affecting most of you in one way or another. And so just to give you some background, first of all, with the vaccines, what did you tell us in the survey? What you told us was that you'd virtually all had your 3 COVID vaccinations and the booster. You'd virtually all had your annual flu vaccine. But the take-up around pneumonia vaccines was lower. And that's something we want to hear more about from you. This is the actual technical slide with the answers on. So you can see the different percentages there. So this is just the evidence, if you like, for that first slide. And then the second area was around fatigue. Fatigue came out as the most mentioned symptom. More than half of you said that you were suffering from fatigue. And so that was why we want to find out, is there more we can be doing to support you with around the area of fatigue? How do you get on with your GPs if you talk about that, or with your haematologists or your specialists? And this is the chart that prompted that point. So that's fatigue on the left. You can see it's a big number compared with all the other signs and symptoms of CLL. And then the third area we want to talk about is the impact on your quality of life. And you've got some figures on this slide here, but I think it's easier if I show you the slides. So the first slide is an overall picture, which is showing you that before COVID, and the green figures are about the physical impact that you were marking out of 10, and the blue one is the emotional. Before COVID, you were at a certain level, around 5 out of 10. After COVID, both the physical and the emotional impact on your quality of life was a little higher. And if we divide that down between men and women, on the left-hand side, we've got the physical impact. The women are the attractive light green colour, the men are the darker green. So you can see that the women are a bit more concerned on the physical side, but also the women are more concerned on the emotional side, if you go across to the dark and light blue areas. And then the fascinating area that just came through to us so much was around the difference between people who had CLL or SLL and people who were their patient supporters, their partners, supporters, carers. And so if you look at the slide on the left, the darker colours are the people with CLL or SLL, the paler colours are the partners or carers. So you'll see that before COVID, physical impact, it was similar. After COVID, the physical impact was higher on the partners and carers, and the emotional impact before COVID, partners and carers were already more concerned, or it's having more of an impact on them. And after COVID, that difference was even greater. So this whole question of quality of life is something we want to talk about and take the time this afternoon at our roundtable discussions. But what we would like you to talk about on your tables now, we can leave this slide up, so you've got the points quite simply around two topics. First of all, around vaccines. Do you know which you should be having? And have you been able to access them? So any vaccine stories that you've got. And then around fatigue. In what ways does fatigue affect you? And have you any suggestions that might help? So we've got coping mechanisms. And we appreciate that there aren't answers to this. It's something that people have to live with. But there might be some things that come out of the discussion today that we can then share more widely.